Hi, this is Allein Moore, and I'm in Las Vegas, which is a nice place to be, at the TUCON conference 2012. And I'm about to speak to Raj Verma, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Tibco. And Tibco puts on this conference every year, and I'm delighted to speak to Raj right now. Before we go on to talk about Tibco, perhaps you could talk a little bit about your background, how you became involved in technology, and also I heard that you did spend some time in Singapore. So perhaps you could also tell us about that too.
Yeah, I did. So I'm a computer science engineer by education and a math major. So I grew up in India. I went to school in Bangalore. And so yeah, I did computer science engineering. And in my final year, I had the option of either pursuing that area and doing masters or whatever else. But I was just a little more interested in the business side of things as well. So I decided that I'll probably join the technology area. This was in 1992. So I actually joined Wipro Infotech, one of the leading technology providers in India in the day. It was far, far smaller than what it is now. And so I worked with them and then joined a company called Parametric Technology, leading the Indian operations in 1995. And then moved to Hong Kong and in 1997. Spent a couple of years there. Looking after the Asia Pacific market, and then from Hong Kong moved to Singapore in 1999. Spent about a year there, 99 and to 2000. It was one of I think of Singapore very fondly because when I lived there, I have nothing but great memories. The chicken rice is one of my favorite meals. Even when I go down to Singapore, that's really what I eat. The roti paratha is just fantastic, and I think I just love the spirit of Singapore. You know, it's just turning from a fishing village to some of the highest standard of living in the world, and it's a case study for everyone. Lee Kuan Yew is one of my idols. I've read every bit of literature that has ever been written about him, arguably, and it's fascinating. I kind of was doing business in Singapore. I used to, even when I moved to the States only in 2006, by the way. So from Hong Kong, which is where I lived till 2006, I used to be in Singapore practically every other week. And some of our clients in Singapore, like DBS, Standard Chartered Bank, OCBC, and countless more, Singtel and Singapore Airlines, all of them, were clients of mine, right? And I loved doing business there. It was good, fascinating. Silicon Valley is an interesting place. I moved here only because our corporate offices were here, and as you progress through your career, you kind of end up at the corporate location. And once I did move to the Valley, I kind of found the place that I wanted to call home, and I did. And by the way, I must say that my wife still loves Asia, and she'd move back in a heartbeat. So
Tibco is quite an established brand in North America, but I suspect not so well known in Asia. Can you tell me how you intend to get the brand better known in that part of the world, and how you're going to be selling your products in that region?
Sure. Awareness is a big priority for us, creating awareness, right? Now, thank you for saying that we are a well-known brand in the United States. I guess if you asked, I think we have ways to go even in the United States. I think we are actually very well known in Asia. Pacific. We've been in Asia Pacific since the late 90s, all right, and in a big way. We have some very, very strategic clients in Asia Pacific. Now, that said, of course, there is a lot more awareness that we need to create. Now, we actually invested more money in Asia Pacific marketing last year than we've done in any other year, right? We did 2 user conferences, one in Singapore, one in Sydney. We probably would be doing more this year, right? We did 3 other small user conferences in Hong Kong, Singapore, and Sydney. So you would see that continuing. Our digital assets like Tip Community and our websites are catered to be relevant to the Asia Pacific market as well. So that's the second side of it. And the third is any awareness creation. As you know, Alan, you're a man with your background. Any big brand is created at the back of a sticky message. Now, we are on a journey as a company. I explain our journey that we are on right now as a journey from being a big, small company to being a small, big company, which wants to be bigger, right? Now, things that we ignored in the past aren't things we can ignore going forward, right? We have to be consistent in the way we position ourselves for no other reason. But without that consistency of messaging, you can't really effectively create awareness, right? So we got that down, hopefully right, in the last year or so, where we, that pyramid that you might have seen at the conference where we talk about, what do we actually provide our customers? What's the value we provide? The 2-second advantage. A little bit of the right information, a little beforehand being a lot more valuable than all the information in the world post-event. How do we do it? Through an event-enabled enterprise, using our technology platform that comprises of 5 elements: automation, event processing, analytics, social, and cloud. So with that messaging now, with that consistency of messaging, just with greater investments, we can create better penetration from an awareness standpoint. And that's what we plan to do.
How do you communicate the brand story to new staff and to your new acquisitions, companies that you've taken over?
Yeah, I think consistency is something that you have to have in your messaging externally and internally. I think every asset in your company has to reflect that messaging, right? We recently redid our entire website to reflect our new messaging. We did the Tip Community to again reflect our messaging. Our entire enablement programs for new hires have been revamped to reflect that messaging and positioning. The way we train the new staff coming in, whether through an acquisition or just a new hire to augment our existing resources, we have a curriculum that they go through, starting with the new hire sales training, and then a platform where we've gamified sales enablement or just enablement per se, using our social collaboration tool and our data analytics tool. And we actually analyze the enablement levels of all our employees to see where they need help, and then ensure that they're pointed to that content or to a mentor who can guide them through the enablement process. By the way, I came in through an acquisition as well, so I wasn't hired. I was acquired by Tibco. I used to work for a company called Staffware, which was a provider of BPM tools, and then we kind of got acquired, or Staffware got acquired by Tibco, and I kind of enabled myself pretty well, I guess, in the bigger scheme of things. But Loyalty Lab is a very, very interesting acquisition for us. We are very excited to have that join our family of products and technologies. It has a unique value proposition through its offering via cloud. The marriage of the cloud-based loyalty offering with our real-time engine is game-changing, absolutely game-changing. we have kept Loyalty Labs as a separate business unit. And we have enabled employees just to be consistent in our messaging. However, we have also harnessed their expertise in loyalty, because we've got loyalty scientists there, and encourage them to stick with that, because sometimes consistency is not the best thing to do. I mean, it's just let them be unique in their own right, and that's advantageous to us. And in the case of Loyalty Lab, I think we've taken the latter approach rather than the former. Whereas on LogLogic, which is another recent acquisition that we did, I think it was in April this year, we've actually integrated that acquisition, and we have aggressively tried to enable the LogLogic field to be on the same page as the rest of the infrastructure. That's more just from a perspective of not confusing the client, thinking that it's not a loyalty, it's not a Tibco asset. But I think from a branding perspective, naturally we call it Tibco Loyalty Labs. And we feel it being a very large part of our business, a very important part at least.
Tibco 4 was launched at this conference, and it was actually, I believe, started about 18 months ago. Can you tell me how it operates? I know it's similar to social media, but you call it social enterprise. So perhaps you could explain that to us.
Sure. I think one of the things that I always say is technology is only a technology to people who were born before that technology was invented. Let me give you an example. For me, the telephone is not a technology, it's a way of life. Right? But for my father, right, because he was born in an era where his house did not have a telephone to him till now is still a technology. Similarly, internet for you and me, Alan, is a technology. But for my kids, internet is a way of life. My 10-year-old daughter actually does not believe me when I say that Google did not exist 10 years ago or 12 years ago. She's like, how did you find your way? Or how did you find things, right? We did not, right? Or mobile phones did not exist 15, 16, 17 years ago. Now, similarly, or that generation, right, which is called Generation Z or Z, which is the generation that graduated from high school 2 years ago, that was the first class that spent its entire educational life on the internet. Those are people we refer to as digital natives, right? For them, the internet is a way of life. The way they collaborate is very different from the way we collaborate, right? They essentially, are brought up on the Facebook or Facebook-like collaboration, or it's text messaging, right? Now, that generation to come into the workforce, which will happen sooner than you realize, and expecting them to change the way they collaborate and using email as the primary source of collaboration is not going to spur innovation or be an attraction for that person to join your enterprise. Right? So I think that shift is not if you need to do that. The question is, when do you need to do that, right? The other benefit to enterprise is that you don't really need any training because Facebook's already taken care of that, right? So people can come in and get used to it in straight off, right off the bat, as they say. So that's one. Secondly, I think with what we bring to the social enterprise is the ability to connect with whatever is on your premise or in the cloud or even to machines, all right? So literally, you have every single resource at your beck and call. Imagine how much you can do with that aspect, right? How much better you can work as a team when you have your entire enterprise in your pocket or in the palm of your hand. So yeah, I think I'm very excited about social collaboration. I think it's going to be huge. It's going to change the way we look at things, solve problems, or even just view the world, right? So yeah, it's going to be big. Very excited.
Raj, thank you so much for talking to AdAsia.